So today's event, Educators and Green Teams Learn How to Lead a Household Food Waste Challenge, hosted by Recycle Leaders in the Audubon Naturalist Society, is now being recorded. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Educators and Green Teams Learn How to Lead a Household Food Waste Challenge. The DMV Recovery Food Week is co-hosted by the DC Food Recovery Working Group and the Manna Food Center's Community Food Rescue. The DC Food Recovery Working Group comprises a variety of partners from food banks, nonprofits, and for-profits working on food recovery, DC government agencies, local environmental and sustainability organizations, and food recovery advocates. The working group promotes food recovery programs, organizations, and resources, and develops new food recovery partnerships, programs, and resources for Greater DC. Community Food Rescue, a program of Manna Food Center, is the coordinated food recovery network of Montgomery County, Maryland. This program enhances the good work of businesses, individuals, and organizations that already recover and redistribute perfectly good food to people experiencing hunger. We'd also like to thank our media partner, the I Hate Politics podcast. Throughout the session, feel free to type your questions in the chat box. We will send the slides out to all registered attendees through Eventbrite, or we'll post a Google Doc link to them in the chat. And we'll also be sending a survey about DMV Food Recovery Week in the next couple of weeks via Eventbrite. Please look out for it and also fill it out. Throughout this event, we encourage you to post on social media about this event with the hashtag DMV Food Recovery Week and hashtag Make the Most of Food. Check out the rest of the week's events at https://dmvfoodrecoveryweek.org, as well as the Imperfect Food Waste Week, https://www.imperfectfoods.com/foodwasteweek. Now, okay, let's get started with this presentation today.
Thanks, Noemi. Hi, I'm Beth Gingold from Recycle Leaders, and I also just wanted to recognize that it is Growing Healthy Schools Month from the DC State Superintendent of Education's office hosts Growing Healthy Schools Month. And so as part of that, teachers who wish to get credit for attending this session can do so afterwards. And I will be sending information about that after the event to anyone who's interested, who said when they were registered. So I thought instead of telling you about how to lead a team, I thought we could do a role play where you all get to be yourselves and you get to be on my team for the Make the Most of Food Challenge. So welcome to our seriously fun team for next year's Green Teams Make the Most of Food Challenge. And I wanted to start off by introducing kind of our core teammates who've been on the team for a long time, and letting some of the people who are on our team who have done this challenge before share some of their experiences. So again, I'm Beth Gingold. I am the CEO of Recycle Leaders, and we are a company that helps school districts and school staff and green teams to manage and run waste action projects with measurable results. And we love working in partnership with Audubon Naturalist Society. And I thought, Diane, our partner, would you like to introduce yourself and Audubon Society?
Yes, thank you, Beth. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am the director of the Green Kids program at Audubon Naturalist Society. ANS is a fairly small local nonprofit that serves the DC metro area with environmental education and conservation advocacy. And I'm really happy to be here with you this afternoon. I love food. And I also love serving teachers and students throughout the district, Maryland, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County, and in Virginia in Loudoun County with our Green Kids program. As our funding allows, we provide free environmental literacy resources to schools. And I was so thrilled last year to partner with Beth on this Make the Most of Food Challenge. So I'm happy to be here. Shall I pass it off to Noemi?
Yep.
Hi, everybody. I'm Noemi Bolaños, and I am a new intern at Recycle Leaders. I actually have not done the Make the Most of Food Challenge, but I was heavily involved in Beth's course over the summer on it's called Everywhere Counts, and it's basically a research course about microplastics in our laundry. And we learned about the impact that we have through doing our basic thing, like washing our clothes and sheets and everything, and how we can kind of reduce that impact through taking simple actions, whether that's using cold water or using a Guppy Friend bag, whichever one. Every step counts. I'm really excited for this to learn how people lead different groups like this, because there's something new to learn from everybody. So everyone's teaching style is different, and there's always, whether you're teaching the same thing, there's always something new to learn from you. So very excited, and thanks for having me.
Thanks. Did you mention what school you go to?
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm a junior at Clarksburg High School.
Excellent. And Erin, our Peterson, wasn't able to make it today, but she manages our social media, and she's a student, I guess, co-enrolled in Montgomery College and Northwest High School in Montgomery County. So as a team leader, I thought we would kind of start with an icebreaker so we can get to know the rest of you a little bit better. So if you want to put in the chat, maybe your location and your organization, and does anyone want to, and you could share about what is a fun thing that you've done to use food that was going to be discarded. So it's Food Recovery Week in the DMV, and if you don't have any ideas on this, that's okay, but we'd love to hear anyone's ideas in the chat or descriptions in their chat of something fun that you've done with food that was going to be discarded. Give it to your worms. And I'm just saying the things on the screen are some things that in our last challenge were awarded most replicable solution for fun things that people did with food. Make a lot of soup, make a smoothie with fruit that would have gone bad. Oh wow, we have make body scrub, that's interesting. Lots and lots of banana bread, that's definitely a thing. Oh wow, bringing it to pigs at home. Okay, laying out remnants of various food leftovers, applesauce, sharing it with other people. Actually, there's a lot of fun ways to, yeah, it's always more fun when you make something that other people can share with you. Huge weekend soup. Neighborhood cats, awesome. Actually, a lot of people with pets have different fun things that they do. Oh, pizza toppings, love that. And donations, that's another way to share. Well, it looks like our team has a lot of ideas already about things that you've already been doing. Oh, storing that food in the freezer, in freezer bags. That's one that I've been meaning to do more of. I made an apple pie at Airbnb that had terrible looking apples. So you used your ugly fruit to make something tasty and beautiful, taking to school the next day. Yeah, actually, one of the places I used to work had basically, when there were leftovers at events, you would just get an email to all the interns and we would just go run and there would be no more leftovers. All right, well, thanks everyone for sharing those things. I'm glad that you're all on this team. And since this is our first meeting where we're preparing to learn how to do the challenge, I want to share with you some of the reasons why I'm really excited about this challenge, and let some of the people who have done it before also share their experiences as team leaders. So for me, and we're thinking this from a perspective of a green team. So we're peers, right? We're being ourselves, and we're going to do this together. And the fact that you're here in this room kind of tells me that you already are interested in this type of issue. So when we do this over Earth Month, one of our really big hooks is that it's really been kind of recognized by Project Drawdown as the #1 way to take climate action, to reduce food waste. And that is because of all of the resources that go into making the food. The second reason why I'm really excited about this particular challenge is about how it's so aligned with kind of the international and national goals of reducing food waste. So the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3 is all about halving global food waste. And there's been a lot of research done related to that about how measuring food waste is basically the first step towards taking actions that will reduce it effectively. So, because what gets measured gets managed. Along those lines, in terms of research, the EPA's, this is entirely based off of the EPA's Food Too Good to Waste toolkit, which has recommended doing this type of challenges, and it's been done in districts actually across the country, and have shown that households that participate typically, just because we get excited about tracking our waste and making an effort, we tend to do a lot better. And we have shown this by running this challenge over Earth Month, and also as an action research project. We have shown that it really works for households facing like a variety of challenges in life, including in food access challenges during our food emergency. So I'm going to stop there, and I want to invite people who have led teams or participated to just share, what is it that you got out of doing the challenge? And I guess alphabetically, Allison, do you want to go first? Maybe share like what type of team did you lead, and what is the most important thing you got out of it?
So I led a team that was a combination of people from the school, I guess staff, as well as some random friends that joined in. And excuse me, I think what I found most powerful was when people shared what I was experiencing in my own life, when they were alarmed with what they had. They thought they didn't waste much food. And then in being part of this, they found that they really did, and came up with creative ways to take action. So, and creative ways to get in step with what I think we have to do across every aspect of our lives now is in an environmental way, is being moderate. So.
Great. Thanks. Caleb, do you want to go next?
Good afternoon, everyone. For me.
Oh, and you can introduce yourself. I meant to say at the beginning.
Okay.
What is your role?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caleb Epps. I work for DC Public School as a custodian. I haven't really led any outside teams as far as the company, but I have led my my school's recycling team. You might want to come back to me, Beth. Give me a second, because my mind kind of all over the place. So come back to me.
Sade, you want to share about your experience leading your household in our action research project?
Sure. My name is Sade Yuri, and I am a parent advocate for Children's Law Center. And I participated, of course, being just a parent. We did our program last summer, and my household probably had the most waste at the beginning of the challenge. I was able to get my baseline to 0 waste by the end of the project. We probably need to do the project again, being honest, but we are doing a lot better with the plastics. Like plastic bags are being used for good things nowadays, and we don't use as many. But I will say that the most valuable thing I probably took from the project is learning how to store my food properly, because we were having a lot of food waste because things weren't stored in the refrigerator correctly in the right spaces. So of course the fruit was going bad. I actually started researching, like, I shouldn't put this food on top of the refrigerator. I shouldn't keep the bread on top of the refrigerator and things of that nature to expand the life of the foods in the household. My kids got involved in it. My oldest daughter was really interested in it. Both my girls, they wanted to weigh the food waste. They wanted to see what we could do with the food waste. Like my oldest son, he knew about composites already. So he was explaining to them about what to do with the food waste. Like if we had access to like a garden or something nearby, or composite site. It was really interesting and valuable for them to learn to stop wasting so much. But I think they probably could revisit it again.
Thanks. Diane, you want to share a little bit about the team that you led?
Yes, I led a team of high school students last year. And I think the most important thing I got out of it was, as an environmental educator, if you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. And for me, going through that whole challenge alongside my students was really powerful, because we can always do better. And I think it's humbling, even as an environmental educator, as a teacher, to realize that you have these problems too. And it's really fun to work on them together with your students.
Thanks. Jyoti, you want to share your experience as a parent?
You have to unmute.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
You guys missed the best part. Anyway. Yeah, I think it was just me and in my household, my family. But the biggest takeaway was for me, planning ahead took a lot of, planning ahead made a big difference in how much food was getting wasted. So during that 1 month challenge, we kind of trained ourselves to plan ahead, meal plan properly, so that we buy just enough, we store just enough in our fridge, and also find creative ways to use up the food so that doesn't go waste. Yep, and I'm looking forward to doing it again this year.
And where are you?
Oh, I'm in Spain.
Welcome. Look, we're global. We're international.
I could have started with that. Yeah.
Great thing about this challenge is we can do it together wherever you are. Right. Karen, do you want to share a little bit about your team?
Sure. I'm Karen Tome. I'm a retired library associate, children's storyteller in a public library, and also a retired elected official. And I had a team from my Rotary Club. And one of the interesting things we found was one of our participants has 2 small children. It was during COVID and she had to work from home. So and the kids couldn't go to preschool or anything. So she was giving them, I think they were allowed more snacks, kind of to keep her, when she's on the computer, keep her focused. That she was allowing them more snacks during the day. So when it came time for dinner, they didn't want to finish their dinner at all. So they ended up, and they didn't eat leftovers. I think by the end of it, they were starting to eat leftovers a little better. But so they found that was a real change. So when the kids went back to school, she did notice that the kids were hungry when they came home and they ate their dinner. So that was kind of neat. And then for us, my husband and I compost, and I kept thinking, well, we probably don't waste too much food. But the problem is when you compost, you look in the fridge and you say, oh, shoot, this tomato's not good. But, you don't feel so bad because you're throwing it in compost and it's going to get back into the soil and you're doing a good thing. And you can be very righteous about that and not realize that you're still wasting perfectly good food. And so we pay much more attention now to everything in the refrigerator. We don't buy too much. I think that was a big issue. We were buying too much for just the 2 of us. Now the kids are out, it's the 2 of us. You don't have to go to Costco and get those huge bags. So I think that helped us tremendously. So it was a big help for all of us.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Juana, do you want to share about the team that you led?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Juana. I participated in the Make the Most of Food Challenge earlier this year in my capacity as a board member for the DC State Fair, which is an all volunteer run organization that puts on an annual event to showcase the artistic, culinary, and agricultural talents of the district. And so I led a team that included a fellow board member as well as someone that had volunteered for the fair before. And I think one thing that similar to what Karen was saying is that, you know, a couple of us on the team actively composted our food scraps and food waste. And I think that kind of put food waste out of mind for us, but then actually having to measure that food waste before you throw it in the compost and seeing the volume of it and seeing that, you know, it's not just peels. Sometimes it's food that you left in the fridge too long. I think that was definitely an interesting wake-up call.
Great, thanks. And then Ricky, did you want to share just a few words about the team that you led?
How's everyone doing? I am Ricky Torrance. I am the science department chair at Washington Latin here in DC. And like Mr. Epps, I also lead in, you know, an environmentally based club. I used to run a recycling club. I miss those kids. But yeah, here at Latin, we run a very large, you know, environmental club. And like I think it was Karen said, we already are like a group that composts pretty heavily in our personal lives. But one of the things that this project showed us was like when and where we waste food. And so like for me personally, I discovered that my wife and I waste a lot of like leafy vegetables. We buy the leafy vegetables in larger quantities than we need. And for the rest of the club, I think one of the standout observations was that the most food got wasted when they ordered out versus cook their own meals.
Got it. Thanks. So thanks for everyone for sharing kind of all your different experiences. You can see our team has a lot of experience. So we're clearly a winning team. But for just to give you all who haven't done this before kind of a better sense of what winning looks like, I thought I would share with you in our introductory meeting this little video that shows what we did.
Hello, my name is Claudia Fabiano, and I work at the Environmental Protection Agency on efforts to reduce wasting.
Can other people see it?
Favorite one by far.
Oh no.
National Food Too Good to Go Network, a group of about 200 practitioners from across the country.
The volume's just a little low, Beth.
As many of you are probably aware, the U.S. set a goal to reduce.
Diane, are you able to see it?
That was just to give you a little sense. I think there was a little technical issues there. Apologize about that, but hopefully you were able to see a little bit of, we had 90 households participate. We had more than 200 people, and overall we reduced our food waste by 52%. So how do we get there? So this is how I'm going to try to explain this to you, and all of you experienced team leaders, after I do this, will maybe give some tips on how they would explain this to their teams. But basically what the whole challenge looks like is, first, we have a meeting like this where we get ready and we explain. So I'll share with you kind of what we're going to do. And the first week, we're going to collect our baseline data. So our baseline data is basically trying to get an idea of, for 7 days, how much food that we would have eaten did we actually discard. So in week 1, we are not trying to change anything. We are just, and even though it's hard because we just listened to, we are thinking about reducing food waste. But the first week, we really just want to find out what we're doing. It's really just about observations and looking at what we're doing now. The second week is when we're going to start looking at what are the different things we might want to do differently. And you're going to report all of your data to me so that I can submit it to the challenge organizers. In the third week, we're going to all take action and collect the same data again. And in the fourth week, we're going to share with each other, and we're going to also apply for the Most Replicable Solution Award, which is making a video or pictures of a solution that we want to share with other people. So there's actually 3 kind of awards we always do. One is 2 are based on data. One is highest performance. That's the lowest discarded food over both of the 2 periods. And then there's a most improved, which is the largest percentage change between the baseline and the action week. But for various reasons, the data is kind of not depending on how many households you have. It's the data itself is less important than the learning that we get from sharing. So that's why the Best Replicable Solution Award is one that we like to share. But so for you preparing being part of this team, you have to remember that it's not just you who's on our team, it's a household level challenge. So we're collecting data on each of the households of the participants on our team. So for me, that's why I've added the picture of my husband, who is very fine with participating in my food waste challenges, because it means that I end up, he's very happy with me handling the waste. But you'll have to make sure that everyone in your household understands what your data collection process is, so that you'll be able to collect the data for your whole household. So in order to help you explain this, we've provided some materials, and if you sign up, these materials will be available to you. So the basic question is, what are we actually measuring? So what we're going to do is basically every time that you discard food that would have been something that you wanted to eat, you're going to track that, and I'll talk about collecting in a second. So it's things that like prepared food, old leftovers, unwanted cooked food. It could be unprepared food like rotten apples or things like this. But kind of like what Karen was saying before, it does not include food scraps, which are things that you typically did not plan to eat. We're also not counting liquids because that'll get confusing and messy. It just makes it more, just for the purposes of our data, we're only looking at food. And so a common question that comes up is like, what about broccoli stems? Does anyone want to try to have a thought on whether you would record broccoli stems if you
So if you would normally eat them, put them up, chop them up and normally eat them, then if something goes bad, or if that would count as waste to you. But if you didn't normally do that, that wouldn't count as waste.
Exactly. So for the purposes of the first time you do this and you're getting your own baseline, it is really just, it is whether you would normally eat it. So for me, when I used to do broccoli, cooked with broccoli, I would cut off the stems and discard them. So in that sense, those would be considered food scraps and I wouldn't count them. But so it's basically things that you consider food that you discard is what you want to track, because you want to compare your own baseline to your own action period. And to help you with this, we have created a data sheet. So for your data sheet, every day as you do this, there's space for tracking your discarded food and for keeping track of about how much each item was in cups. So the reason why we're tracking volume and not weight is because we want to make sure that this is something that everyone can do, and not everyone has a scale, but if you have a container that you know how much volume it is, then everyone can measure volume. So we highly recommend that you actually collect the waste in a container so that you can take before and after pictures. Okay, so if you collect it all in a container, then you'll be able to really visually see how much it was for the whole week. Now, because we've gotten a lot of feedback about various difficulties in, collecting and keeping the food waste, it's not required, because basically at the end of the week, the data that you're going to report is the total volume in cups and the number of people in the household. And we're going to use those pieces of data to get the total volume per person. Okay, so one way to get the volume, if you've tracked it every time, you can just add up the total and that'll be your total. If you do what I do and what we did last year, so one of the, I like to have, this is a 4-cup container and I like to keep my food waste in it. The first time you do this, you might want to have multiple containers because you don't really know how much you do per week. Also, you might do something like what I just did. So as a team leader, you can use real examples from yourself. So this is a thing that I did this week. So these are brownie fail because it was a good intentioned thing. I was started to make brownies and then I realized I didn't have eggs. So then I thought that I would use a substitute for eggs. Didn't work. You can't scrape those brownies out of the pan. So that's a real example. So I'm gonna have to kind of guesstimate the amount of that volume. But so that would be, in my data sheet, that would be today. And my item would be brownies. And it's approximately probably 2 cups of them. And the why is because of a cooking experiment that I did. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. You'll see on the data sheet, it has a household ID on it. That's because I'm going to have a Google sheet that you'll be able to enter each of your household's data. And because not everyone loves sharing this information, particularly when you're doing this with students, we have the option of making it anonymous for people to report. And then at the end, I'll be taking all of your data, adding up the volume for every household and the number of people in every household on our team. And we're going to come up with our combined volume per person per week. And that's what we're going to do in week 1. So this is also, I'm not going to do it because my technology will make it inefficient. But in week 1, you should also make everyone take a fun team photo of yourselves because you'll want to use it and it's going to be fun. But I also wanted to pause here to ask if any of the team leaders, from before, have any major suggestions on a thing that you said to your team that was helpful in explaining this.
Something I did with my team, and I think this works well for home or for school, is to think that we're just bringing to light a problem that normally gets kind of pushed away down at the bottom of a big trash can. And so using clear containers like Beth just showed, and putting them in place of like where you would normally throw trash, you're just bringing to light all the food waste that you're putting out there. That is so magical when you start seeing that. And working with students, I'll put a tarp out instead of throwing their lunch waste into the trash can. Let's just lay it out on a tarp and see what we're throwing away in a day. So that's my tip, is just to make it really, really visible. And even when I use containers, I use transparent containers so you can see what's in there. My team, we ended up having some students collect over the whole week in the same container. They just kept adding to it, and others had too much food waste and we would still throw it away at the end of the day. But you have the flexibility to do that in a way that works for your household.
Thanks. And does anyone who hasn't done it before have like a question? Who provides the household ID? So the team leader would just assign everyone a household ID.
I made on my Google spreadsheet, I said, just pick a number when you sign up. So I had no idea for my team of 8 students who did what. I still, to this day, don't know who was which number. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, thanks. And then want to share creating an Excel spreadsheet of the data to send to team members. Yeah, since not everyone has a printer. Exactly. Great. So I'm just going to stop there, because the first week meeting, you really, it's really fine to just focus on getting started and week 1. The rest of it, there will be resources when you sign up to talk about, what are some strategies, what does the EPA recommend? But it's not really it's more useful when you're doing your baseline week to really focus on getting the data without thinking about, what we can do, because that starts changing people's behavior. So just jumping in and getting going is what we're going to do. Oh, sorry. I wanted to just think a little bit about this question. I had it set up as a poll, but you can just think about it, because I think most of us in this room are people who are, I said that you're like our green team, are people who decided to come to this event. So I like to ask this question. You see top 10 easy things you can do right now to reduce food waste. How do you feel about that?
I'll say inspired. Are we supposed to be doing a poll though?
Yeah, well, I can't do the poll, but it's just like a moment of reflection. But if anyone wants to share, does anyone like to share how it makes them feel inspired?
I think it depends, like just when it hits you, because sometimes that can feel really overwhelming. Other times maybe it feels inspiring to me.
Does anyone else have any? A couple people putting in the chats. It's not like a quiz question. It's really just about like how you feel. There's no right answer.
Yeah, I'd say inspired too, because if I'm in a mindset, like if I'm thinking about this while I'm doing the challenge, then if I see a headline like this, I'd be inspired to look at it.
I would feel validated, because I believe this is really important and something that people don't pay enough attention to.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And I guess I might feel all of these at different times, depending on the circumstance, kind of like Diane said. I might feel validated, depends on what it says. Like I might say, oh yes, I did all those things, right? I might feel inspired because I see things like, oh great, you know, I can do those things. I'm in this challenge, I want to do them. At the same time, yeah, I might feel overwhelmed. I might feel like, okay, also the words easy, right? And right now, depending on what other things going on in my life might make me not want to listen to this, right? I don't know if you have some friends who like recently, I have a friend who recently had a baby, right? So tell her that here's an easy thing you can do right now about food waste. Like, also, sometimes when I see these lists, they have things on them that I can't do. So I live in an apartment building, for example, I don't have a car. If it's about, you know, or if it's things involving things I don't have access to, then maybe I will feel alienated. Sometimes I do when I see these types of lists. Also, I mean, maybe I'll feel angry. Back to the baby example, like if you're telling me this is easy and I can't do it, then maybe that's not something I would be involved in. Also, if there's other things happening in people's lives, and you know, how can you talk at me about food waste when we're facing a food crisis and I don't have access to food? So this is just say people might have different reactions to things depending on, you know, how we feel at any given moment. And that's why I'm shifting to talk about doing with this with schools. There's a reason why we're now supporting a challenge for schools in February, in addition to the challenge like for green teams in April. And that's because it's different to do this with a school than it is to do with, you know, a couple of your friends who are already engaged with this. So obviously there's the difference of, you know, if you have students, depending on what age they are, you'll have to engage with households in a different way. And you might have households that, you know, didn't sign up for this voluntarily. So I want to let Diane talk a little bit about, as our environmental education expert, about her experience of doing this kind of challenge with schools and maybe the Maryland, why schools might want to do this and how it aligns with schools.
Yeah, so with our Green Kids program, we've been working with schools for a long time. And one of the things we do regularly is take a bag of trash from the cafeteria and bring it into the lunchroom and put on gloves and reach in there and see what's been thrown away. What I love about this challenge is it has you thinking before you throw things away, and it can be done at home. So this was a really great activity and solution for us to get schools thinking about food waste during the time of distance learning. One of the things that I learned that I was really surprised about is that schools and institutions contribute only about 10% to the food waste that we have in this country. And households are the biggest contributors to food waste, far more than restaurants, businesses, schools, etc. So when I think about growing this food waste challenge with schools, I think it's a great way to connect with PTAs as well as with the curriculum and what we're doing within the school day. This is such a great issue to bring home. The other thing that is really exciting and inspiring about this project is that we created this guide. You see the little cover of it there on how to facilitate a food waste challenge. and it's very, very adaptable. So I'm excited once we get back into the cafeterias again, in applying everything that we learned and all the materials we developed for the home-based challenge to bringing that to the schools. Also, when you start examining and measuring this issue with schools, which is a great way to support Green School Awards, whether it's Eco Schools or the Maryland Green Schools program, you start to notice other issues and other problems. Share tables comes up as a big issue. The access to food, how it's being distributed. There are many cases where students are like basically forced to take a milk that they know they don't like, and then they just throw it away in the trash. So we're teaching young children to waste food, basically. So all of these other issues that come up are ones that are great for the community to tackle. It's good to get parents involved. It's good to get the teachers involved because they don't normally see what's happening in the cafeteria. So those are just a bunch of rambling ideas for me, but I think this is such a wonderful, wonderful topic to address in the schools. And one of the things I'm working on going forward is connecting it more to the curriculum.
Thanks. And yeah, Audubon does great work with connecting with the curriculum and doing teacher trainings, and that could be a whole other webinar.
And last thing I would add, Beth, is I did use last year some resources from the World Wildlife Fund's Food Waste Warriors program. And even with very young children, we were teaching them that there's 3 things you would do with food. It's not trash. Food is not trash was what I called that lesson. You can either save it for later, you can share it, or you can compost it. But the composting is sort of the last choice. And so we gave kids lots of different examples of food, and I had them, because it was over Zoom, they were showing me if they would save it or share it or compost it with their motions. But it just stimulated so much discussion, even with very young kids, first graders that were had a lot of thoughts about food, and we're thinking about, yeah, there's that, whatever I put in the back of the refrigerator and I never ate it, so that was my last thought to leave you with is to maybe look at all the great resources that are already out there for schools and just start teaching about this topic.
Thanks. And then I actually wanted to ask Sade if she wants to share any thoughts about how to make this sound like a fun thing for parents to do, maybe parents who aren't already part of the Green Team efforts.
I'm sorry, you said me?
Yeah.
You broke up on my end.
I'm sorry. Whether you wanted
okay.
to share a few thoughts on for recruiting parents from households in DCPS.
I think probably the best way to recruit parents is through their children, to spark interest in the students in the classroom for the teachers, or maybe if they're like in the after school program, sending home a letter to the parents saying their child has been selected to be in the program. You have to make it so that it's appealing to the child and they sell it to their parents. And that's probably the best way for you to do it. But like high school kids, a lot of times the parents are like, okay, you want to be interested in things that your kids are doing, but our kids don't always stick to the plan. So it's kind of like if you get the teacher to explain to the parents, maybe at like parent-teacher conferences, or because when the progress reports are due, we typically have parent-teacher conferences, and the teachers explain what the students are doing in the classrooms or what type of programs they have at the school. And I think that in the counselors as well, and that'll be a good way for you to have the teachers and the students involved together at the school, and then for the parents and the teachers to be on the same, one accord, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I just want to ask Ricky if, whether you have any from the high school perspective, because we were more talking about elementary schools, whether you wanted to share anything about maybe how to get from a high school like green team perspective about getting involvement.
Hey, was that for me, Beth? Beth, was that for me? Was that for Ricky?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm in transition right now. So yeah, I definitely we all should have a green team or a recycling team or an environmental club at our school. That should be standard at every school, in my opinion, and that's a perfect place to start.
Great. Thanks. And I'm just looking at, thanks for sharing. And so I just want to say that it's, you can sign up. There's a link on our website. If you register now, it's coming soon. And what you'll get access to as a teacher it's a $150 registration fee. It has pre-recorded training, all of the challenges and worksheets in the guidance document that Diane mentioned. It will give you access to live events. So basically something like this, where you get to meet each other and I get, hear from me as a team leader for everyone. It also has the guidance documents and kind of curated resources of what are some of the best resources out there on like toolkits for food waste strategies, and also a private community discussion board. And teachers who fully complete the whole thing will be able to get a certificate for 8 professional learning units. So we would love to have as many schools sign up. If price is a problem for you, you should sign up with this waitlist 2022 coupon code, which will let you register for free, and we will look for sponsorship for you. So if you're a school, think about signing up. And I just want to put this slide up here for their contact information, because I want to get to the breakout groups for you, so I can close this presentation and we can let you talk to each other to basically the question of, what are your thoughts on what you'd like to do with this? Is there anything that would help you to make the most of food, or questions that you have? And then you can kind of discuss this with each other. And it's 5 o'clock. So in terms of, respecting everyone's time, I just wanted to close by saying, so Noemi put our contact information in the chat, and also the link to pre-register. And just to clarify, there are 2 upcoming challenges. One is more geared towards schools and teachers who want to do it to link with the curriculum, or trying to get a more school-wide effort. So we're running that in February because April is testing month for schools. So it's great for green teams and as a hook, but it's actually not so great for educators who really want to do it as part of what they normally do. So thanks for Diane to providing that very important insight. So there's a link to pre-register for that. And there's also, if you have a group that's more like peers who want to do this for fun as a green team in April, there's also a link to pre-register for that on our website. And we'll be updating with more information as we get closer to those dates. So thanks so much for coming. I'm gonna stop recording, but anyone who wants to stick around for a few minutes just to say hello, you're welcome to.